Nerd Nerds, happy Sunday and welcome back to our weekly live chat. Today we are talking about writing struggles. I don't know whether it's going to be more of a commiserating about writing struggles. I make no promises about solving any writing struggles, but if you have writing struggles, this is the place to be. So we'll see how the evening unfolds. To kick things off, we're just going to kind of go around and share a writing struggle that we've had recently, if we don't have one right now. So maybe a writing struggle you have right now. What is your biggest writing struggle of the moment? Leah.
Specifically just writing chapter 20, it's taken me over a month, but I would say like the overarching problem is just like first drafts. It's very hard for me to turn off like the editor, and so I want it to be as best as it can be before I send it off to critique partners, and that often means that I am taking a really long time to write and I'm still not happy with what I write. So that's where I'm at.
Kyra.
Yeah, the struggle with me for writing is doing it right now. All of it. Yeah, for me lately, so Megan and I have been working on revising our book. If you're a longtime viewer of the channel, you know that we've been writing together for a long time. And we've written some other things, but it has always been this book. So we've been working on this book on and off again for like 7 years.
Too long.
And I love it. And I am so tired of it. So I'm in a place where I'd really, really like to be drafting something new that I have not been working on for 7 years, but I am not. So it's hard to stay motivated to do this like responsible, write what I'm supposed to be writing, well, revise, and then yeah. Well, that's my big thing right now is I have to work on something that I don't really want to work on because I'm tired of it.
Megan, how about you?
I feel like a big struggle I've been having lately is just like trying to hack my brain and figure out like what's going to work best for my brain right now. I feel like I've gone through lots of periods where I'm writing a lot. I'm writing a little bit every day. I'm feeling really productive very often. And for the last few years, it's been I'm writing nothing or I'm doing nothing but writing. And then the times when I'm not writing, I'm just filled with like ennui about the state of publishing. And just kind of like figuring out how to sit in that until I feel creative enough to have like one of those bursts again, and like finding things to fill my well in the downtime so that there's not huge spaces between those times. I don't know if that made any sense. Just my brain.
Emma.
Definitely, I'd say broadly, just like time is currently my biggest struggle, especially ever since I started working from home. Like technically, gives you more time without the commute, but it's like sitting like at my computer. Like I work on my computer all day versus when I was an office job, like, computer stuff. And so just being on my computer all day, like being in my house, in my office, like the last thing I want to do is come sit in here again on a different computer and write afterwards.
Yeah. So. I think since working from home, I have almost stopped writing in my office, which used to be the only place I would write. Mm-hmm. And now a lot of the time I have to just get out and go someplace else.
For me, it's been trying to like come back after a long time away from writing. Like I feel like I'm finally in a decent headspace to go there, but I've gotten out of that rhythm of like having just a constant flow of ideas I want to be working on. Like there's nothing in particular that I want to jump into, so it's hard to like really get the motivation to just like do it anyway. Mm-hmm. So it's rebuilding that muscle is probably what that'll come down to for me. For anyone hanging out in the comment section today, welcome. We are so glad to have you here. Please let us know what writing struggles you have been up against. Some of this chat is here to kind of inspire future chats of kind of see what people are struggling with. If it's something we want to dig into deeper in the future, it's good to know about. Or if we all just need somewhere to vent about the fact that writing can be hard. So
it can be really hard sometimes. I love it. to everyone in chat. We've got Misty Kate, Nicole, Joe Catherine, Morgan, Cass. Welcome. Oh, yeah, this is a huge one. Nicole said, I've been having trouble finding writing software I can stick with. It seems like every time I write a new project, I'm like, well, might as well try a new writing program too. Yeah. And lately too, sometimes I'll like open Scrivener, which I have drafted probably the majority of the novels I've written in, and I'll just be like, nope, not this time. This one's a Google Docs book.
So does anyone have any struggles that they have overcome? Seems like the wrong word when tackling writing struggles, because it feels like, okay, you may have overcome it for now, but what are the odds you're never going to face this again? The hurdle you have most recently avoided for now. I feel like writing is just a string of writing struggles. Like there could be longer gaps in between those struggles, but
the one to me that comes to mind is like the time issue that Emma mentioned. I think that's a big one for a lot of writers, just because people are busy. There's a lot of stuff to do with your day. You know, work, you do chores, you take care of family, do social things, whatever. There's just a lot in your day for most people. I think for me, one of the things I found most helpful with that is just like learning to be a little more flexible in terms of what my schedule looks like versus how I write. So I've had like periods of time where what worked for me is just like I didn't write it all during the week, and then I found a couple hours on the weekend, and because I knew that was my dedicated, like, this is the only time I'm gonna get to write this week, it was a lot more effective, and that's the only time I wrote, but it was like just very focused and dedicated. And there were times in my life where just based on my schedule that worked for me. I've also had like the complete opposite, where I really just like had to chip away at things for like 200 words a day, 300 words a day, you know. And it had to be very consistent, and it was never big bursts, but it just was like, that's what worked with my schedule. So maybe that's a non-answer because it's not like this is what you do, but I think it is like just thinking about like, where am I getting, like, what is the limitation on my schedule, and maybe like, where can I fit it in? How am I going to make it effective when I am fitting it in? Whatever. And just also expecting that will probably change, and find what works for you for now. And if things change, see if you can find something else that works.
yeah. When we're talking about this, the clearer it is, I think, that there really aren't going to be any answers to writing struggles. Like, this chat is really going to need to be more about acknowledging the process of writing and how struggle involved it is, and how nobody's going to have an answer that fit them perfectly that might also fit you perfectly. It's just kind of taking bits and pieces and evolving it constantly. Joe Catherine says, I've forgotten how to put together a half-decent sentence. Yay, plot and characterization. I spent half an hour trying to write them walking from the hallway into the room.
That's one of my bigger writing hacks, actually, for a struggle, is transitions are a huge struggle for me. So in all my first drafts now, if I'm having to do a transition, I just write 2 forward slashes and say they walked from this room to the next. And then most of the time, you would think this would be like, oh, you've just pushed it down the line. It's a problem for future you. But most of the time, once you get the space and come back, you can realize, I can just say they walked down the hall. Like,
Yeah.
I can just say they did the thing. But I like can't see it in that moment.
Oh, Emma, you're muted.
God, I was muted because I was finishing my Reese's cup. Yeah, I find I sometimes like get too in my head on like the sentence level when writing, and it's like, this has to be the perfectly crafted sentence in order to move forward. It doesn't. It doesn't have to be the perfect sentence.
Something I've done recently to kind of work with that, because I've also had a similar problem, especially with dialogue, is I just like write down like 5 or 6 different options that I've brainstormed, and then like whichever one I like, I'm like, oh, actually, and then this person can say this, or like this could come next, and I'm like, that's the one we're going with, we're moving on. And like, it's a very slow process, because sometimes it's sentence by sentence, but like it helps me get through it.
That's writing. So
yeah, and I think like some of it too is like, you know, the whole like the more you learn about writing and the better you get at it, like sometimes like it causes more issues where like I think you reach a point where it's like I'll sometimes find myself like writing a paragraph and I'll be like, I need to vary the sentence structures. It's like, this is the first draft, I don't have to vary the sentence structures perfectly, you know, but like I get like self-conscious about things that I know need to be right in the prose.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to acknowledge that all of Morgan's struggles are so interesting and so
Yes.
I am not helpful. The idea of like doing color scripts and pose notes sounds so cool. So we're like, oh yeah, that sounds like I'd rather be doing that than writing. That's because I haven't had to do it before, and I'm sure
I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
I did once read, I don't know a whole lot about writing comics, and maybe Morgan, this is like stuff you already know. A resource I really liked though that I read is called, I think it's called Making Comics by Scott McCloud. And it like does it, I really liked it because it does a good job of like breaking down like what you can do with like paneling and all sorts of things that I never really internalized because I don't make comics, but I think was a really good way. Like I really appreciated because it was really good at connecting like the actual techniques of the medium with storytelling in a way that I haven't seen done before. So might be stuff you already know. Might be a good resource if not.
I've been trying to think about, because Kelly, you mentioned like what's things you've overcome, and I do feel like I have gotten like into a pretty good place. I think from about 2016 to the 2021, maybe, I was in a really bad place mentally as far as publishing was concerned. I had an agent, and the agent ghosted me, and I had to like request a reason, only to find out that it was just that they had stopped repping the genre. I was like, you didn't need to ghost me over that. You could have told me. And so that like really made me jaded about publishing professionals in a way that I don't talk about a lot, but I was really, really, really jaded about it. And then, you know, COVID happened and publishing was really bad. And YA fantasy, which was what I had at the time, was really bad. And just felt like I was having to do things to trick myself into like staying out of spite and trying to publish for a really long time. But I joined like a great Discord full of people, and having like the Warners to commiserate with, I do feel like I don't feel so pessimistic about publishing, even though publishing itself hasn't improved that much. I feel like I've gotten a better mindset regarding it. And so not that I never feel sad about it. I do like once a month still, but I don't feel so like, what am I even doing here? Why am I spending my time trying to get published when I could just write the books and have fun? So I feel like that's been my biggest writing struggle win in the last 5 years. We've got Erin here.
Erin, hello.
Hi.
I'm just going to throw you right in the deep end here. Tell us
Okay.
about a recent writing struggle you've had. You don't have to have solved it, just something you're struggling with.
A recent. What's hard right now? I have very little patience. That's always been a problem for me with writing. And currently I am waiting on feedback from my agent, and I am struggling to wait. I want to start like a dozen other projects while I am waiting because I'm impatient and have no chill. But I know if I do that, I will immediately get interrupted when she does get back to me, and then I'll be frustrated about that because this is a repeating pattern that I have. So I have to train myself to be patient, and it's hard. So yeah, that's me. That's what's hard.
Definitely agree. That's always been like a big hesitation on writing for me, of just like, I would be so much more interested in traditional publishing if it could go at my speed.
Yes. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if that's like also a spicy brain thing in general. Like, I know that I feel like the like quest to start 5 different projects at once is because it's like really similar to me being like, maybe I could be an artist. Maybe I could draw. Like the other day I was like, maybe somebody drew a really cool chalk drawing of like an octopus. And I'm like, I could draw octopuses or squids.
Absolutely.
I was like, I could just start a business of drawing squids.
I believe in you.
There's a lot of demand for that for sure.
I did one. Yeah.
I bet they're easy to draw compared to other things. No, they're not. Like, my brain is weird and just wants to try new things all the time. It's like, maybe that could be my thing, drawing squids. Squids?
I think you more than anyone has found your thing. You are.
I don't think you need squids.
I don't need squids. Is it squid or squids? Is a group of squids
It can be both, I think. I think that's one where like if they're all like hanging out together, then you say, "Oh, look at those squid," and that's fun. I don't know. Now I'm overthinking it too, but I think if you talk about like, they're in different places, then it's 2 squids. Am I just making things up?
Morgan Graves says, Aaron, stop.
Meanwhile, Joe Catherine had devoted 2 weeks to watercolor jellyfish. So, you know, you found your people, if nothing else.
That's awesome. Oh, jellyfish are so cool. Don't get me started.
Merriam-Webster says either can be the plural.
Okay. Okay, good to know.
I'm glad I said that with so much confidence and then was right.
Yeah.
We are supposed to be like good at words and stuff, so we should probably know this, you know.
It doesn't come up that much. Like
Hey, I'm starting on a new exciting career path of drawing squids, okay? So we got to know this.
we support you in all things. But yeah, that like the knowledge that if you put this thing down, it is going to be so hard to put it up again, like pick it up again. If you like move on to the next project, by the time someone else gets back to you about another thing, it's just like, nah.
Exactly.
And meanwhile, I feel like I'm like my own worst enemy in that aspect because like I struggle so much with finding time to write that it's like in the pockets of time I do find, it's like, well, I haven't looked at this in a month. Mm-hmm. And so now I have to get back in the right headspace, remember like the tone and everything. That's really hard.
Side note, Morgan, I love that a group of squid is called a squad.
It's amazing.
Now I want to draw a bunch of squid and call them a squad. Wait, Morgan Graves, is that true? Morgan Graves says, I wish I was kidding.
I'm so glad you're not kidding.
That's real? That's amazing. It's like a bunch of owls being called to parliament. Squid squad, yes.
Squid squad.
Squid squad.
Squid series of art.
That's all I draw, though. That's it.
Yes.
Someone else is like, "Can you draw an octopus?" And I'm like, "Are you insane?"
Absolutely not.
Just
why would you even say that to me right now?
What's the matter with you? Oh dear. Gary Hart says, "I'm listening to this to avoid editing." God, that's relatable. Yes. You're welcome for the distraction. We can be very distracting.
It could have been like a productive distraction. Listen to us talk about writing, but you're just getting squid content instead.
Yeah.
Not even productive
That's the
distraction.
word nerds guarantee.
You were not expecting that, I'm sure.
I feel like so much of writing, the longer you write, is just, like you said, Kai, just starting to be flexible. Just like, it's fine if I've been gone for a while and the tone doesn't match perfectly. I don't have to spend forever like getting it just right. I can just start. Or like, oh, it's fine if I have to wait. I don't want to, but I can. Like, just learning to be adaptable, because so much of publishing is out of your control, and even writing a book when you have a lot of other stuff going on.
I find like with a lot of my writing problems, it's just been like a really long journey of like learning my strengths and weaknesses. and like learning what's going to completely derail me. And I'm not like a fast learner with that either. I have to do it like a handful of times and then be like, oh, right, the last 5 times I did this thing, started a new project, whatever, I completely derailed myself and was like panicked and weird about it by the time like my agent got back to me with like, here's this thing. Cause that was like, my brain was like, no, we are done with that. And we're on to this thing now, you know. Takes a while, but eventually I learned my patterns.
Yeah, and it doesn't help too that in traditional publishing, sometimes you do have to like, say you get a book deal, they're going to give you edits back, but if you're not a little more established, like you do have to have something else on deck, or if you're querying, like you really do need something on deck to go out with after you're done, because it might not get picked up. It might get picked up and you'll still need something else. Like,
knowing your weaknesses and being able to like plan for them is something that's like really, really important. And like, cause I do that. And I know, Megan, you're right. Like you can't just sit there while you wait for your editor to get back to you. Cause you could be sitting there for 6 months, possibly, you know? So I now write myself an edit letter because I know like if I have to put aside the new thing I'm working on when my editors get back to me, I then have something to come back to because I've like literally forgotten everything that I was working on. So if I write myself an edit letter and was like, and like, especially like the letter starts out with like, hi, I know you've forgotten everything to do with what you've just written and you're panicking. Here is an overview. Here is the tone. Here's the Pinterest board with like all of the vibes, and like to get back into that headspace. And like, that's something I learned to do, and like did that for the first time at the beginning of this year. And it was like so helpful to avoid the intense panic of the first few days of getting into a new project and realizing I'd forgotten everything I was doing, you know.
Yeah, dear future self.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, Misty Kate was talking about something kind of in this vein. Said I feel like story or writing journaling could help with those downtimes and keeping visibly in her head, but I have to start doing that again as well.
Yeah. I do like, I call it morning pages, but they're kind of all over the place right now. But a lot of it's like, this is what's going on. This is what I'm writing about. And yeah, that helps. Like the shorter times that I have to wait, it helps to keep my sanity. And the longer times it helps too, because you can kind of go back and be like, oh yeah, I was thinking about this while I was currently writing that project I've forgotten about.
Yeah, I definitely think I was the most productive in my writing when that was something I was doing.
It's also just good to vent in said writing journal. Therapy.
I'm just thinking through my writing struggle, kind of like getting back into it after a time away. And the thing I keep meaning to do, it feels like this is the solution to my problem, but then the struggle becomes doing the thing, is I really want to sit down and like look at all of my favorite media books, whatever, and like write down the things that I love about them. Because I feel like in the past I found like, things that I haven't seen put together before that I love from other media, and like turning that into an idea that I'm excited about. So I feel like that's my answer, but I just don't know. I'm not willing to test it out yet.
Generate a list of all the things that you like, and then you roll a dice to figure out which ones you're going to combine together.
If it comes down to it, why not?
Nice.
Sounds kind of fun, to be honest.
I feel like I did that a long time ago, 10 years ago or something, and it definitely led to something. But it's been a long time. And I do go through, like, when I'm rereading something that I've loved, of like, I remember that I loved this thing, that I wanted to do something else with it. I just have to start writing things down. That's just not going to happen.
That's why I love the old phone notepad. I just have a really, really, really long list, and I should probably go through and clean it up a little. It's gotten long enough now that I've started putting the new ideas at the top of the list instead of at the bottom of the list.
See, I had a whole Evernote folder for that, and then Evernote stopped being useful. So I haven't even
Yeah.
wanted to like go back and move my ideas over to somewhere I could use them.
For a while, I was doing voice note, like recordings of like, I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I'd think of something and I'd be like, instead of writing it down, I'd, talk it out or whatever. And I think that can help too if you don't have someone to bounce ideas off of, if you just like talk out loud to yourself, but you record it so you can listen back to it later. If you're bringing through a plot struggle.
So does anyone like? We are a resource for solving writing struggles, but I'm wondering like what other resources do people go to if like those of us who read a lot of writing blogs or listen to podcasts? I feel like it's stuff that a lot of us used to do more of before. Does anyone have resources still? Like if you have a problem, you just look up how other writers have solved it. I've like forgotten what things are.
I'll read blogs. Like obviously I'll just go and Google it, but more often I find myself like later on, like I'm not as much of a new writer anymore, and I think things have shifted because of that a little bit. And having made so many writer friends and having made so many writer connections, I think what I do now is more rely on actual people sounds weird. The people writing the blogs are actual people too, but like I'm much more likely to like DM a friend and be like, oh my god, this is driving me crazy, what would you do about this specific scenario in my specific work? Because oftentimes like my writer friends know what I'm working on too, right? So if it's something like a specific plot problem I'm having, I will do that. If it's something more vague and general, like I'm having difficulty with writer's block, or I want to get into a flow state, how do I achieve that? I will like YouTube it and just find YouTube writer videos.
That's really interesting.
I think for me, even if it is more of a like process struggle than a plot struggle, I've probably increasingly started just like, and I think a lot of times it kind of starts as commiserating rather than strategizing. But it's just going to writing group and like the book I signed with my agents on was kind of the result of just me being like super stuck and like just very frustrated with publishing and just like wanted to write something but was like so frustrated with publishing and burnt out and just like so I kind of brought it to the writing group and they like helped me with plot ideas but also just like, hey, maybe let's try this like little bit different structure for writing group that might make it a little more fun for a while. So writing friends are great.
I love the Publishing Rodeo podcast. If anyone out there is feeling bleh about publishing ever, it's done by Cindy Dean and Scott Drakeford, I think is his name. And there are two people who got publishing deals with Tor at about the same time. But Cindy got a really big book deal and Scott got a really small one. And then they like track the paths that their publishing trajectories have taken, and they interview other people about their publishing experiences. And some of the authors are like very successful by all the standard markers, but a lot of I don't know, it's just really nice to hear, like, as someone who hasn't had a really sparkling publishing experience so far, it's been really cathartic, I think, to listen to other people who have the kind of publishing experience that you don't hear about in the news, Chat. Publishing
it's they are wildly realistic. I find them so refreshing because they're like so down to earth and they're not beating around the bush or like trying to put like a golden mirage on things. It's like, this is how it is. And yeah, sometimes it sucks, and especially hearing him talk about kind of like his publishing experience has been refreshingly honest. I really like that.
I feel like I could use more golden mirages. I feel like a lot of my like trudging through to try to like get back into the world of writing comes from like the lack of like I don't see any light at the end of the tunnel anymore. There's not a lot of wins going. I'm also not paying as much attention to publishing. So if there are like big flashy things happening, I'm less aware of it. I'm mostly getting stuff funneled through whenever you guys are complaining about things that happen in publishing. But, so I feel like I used to get so excited, especially in the world of self-publishing, about like seeing other people's success and like, oh, look what's possible. Like, even if I don't feel like, okay, that's what I'm even going for, or like, oh, I think that's what's going to happen. I'm just like feeling inspired by just other people. And
God, I think if you want that, because there are crazy success stories. Like, look into the world of, like, you probably already know this, but like my friend is big into like the paranormal, like not straight up erotica, but it's like paranormal romance, like with quite spicy scenes. And I don't know, she like tells me all the time about these two ladies are writing under this pen name and they both quit their jobs and they're making $6,000 a month. And like, I don't know, I think that like there definitely still are stories or success stories out there like that. Like, especially
are there many that don't involve smut?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Well, Travis Baldry, because I was thinking of Kimberly, what's her last name? Lemming, who does That Time I Got Drunk and like yeeted a love potion at a werewolf. But those are smut, but wildly successful, started self-pub, got picked up by a publisher. But also Travis Baldry, whose work is not, to my knowledge at this time, smut, did get big via self-pubbing.
What does he write again?
Legends and Lattes.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I thought so.
I think
We all switched to smut, Misty Kate said.
I was gonna say, I mean, if you can't beat him.
I think like I find it inspiring and like comforting to just read a lot of different or listen to a lot of different writers' stories and like processes. Like I don't remember what the podcast, I think it might be 88 Cups of Tea.
Oh, yeah, I like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, where I think the author being interviewed was Maria V. Snyder, who wrote Poison Study, which is one of my favorite YA fantasy.
I just reread that like last week.
Yeah. And
so good.
she said something like that she could manage to write one chapter a month, and that's what she would take to her writing group. And I was just like, and here I am like sweating bullets because like it's hard for me to get like 1 week a chapter or whatever at that time. Like I'm not there right now, but like just to hear like that author of one of my favorite series was a slower writer and not like a super fast drafter, which I had been hearing a lot of from other people. I was like, there's hope for me. Might take me a really long time, but there's hope.
I think there's like this thing that gets pushed a lot, and especially in the realm of like writers, like here's my secret formula to write 6,000 words in a day. Like that gets pushed a lot in like, you know, video blogs and like I have a book on my shelf somewhere that's like 6,000 words a day or whatever, right? Like that type of thing is my secret formula because that sells, right? That's really exciting and you know, cool to people, and they want that secret formula. But like there's a lot of successful writers that I don't think have that crazy kind of output, right? Like I think it's normal and you can be successful. It was Beth Revis who was saying that she would write a lot and then she would write nothing for long periods of time in between. Like
how Kirsten White does it too.
Yeah, that's like a legitimate form of style to have as well, right? Like
so I think about like Megan Whalen Turner, who has written one of my favorite fantasy series. Like she was going like 7 years in between books. And she's said before, she's like, I can't write fast. Sorry, the books are gonna take a while.
Yeah.
You mentioned 88 Cups of Tea, Leah, and I have to plug this episode. Anytime anyone mentions 88 Cups of Tea, back in 2016, 17 or whatever, there was one podcast episode that kept me from quitting at a time when I was like, what if I just didn't try to get published anymore? And it was Julie C. Dow's episode of 88 Cups of Tea. She talked about how it was a really long road to getting a book deal, and she's writing all these books and she has so many. And in it, she ends up talking about how like it took a really long time, but I got there and I had this whole backlog of books with me. And having that in my head all of this time since has just been so good for me mentally. It was like, oh, look, here's someone who's actually successful saying, no, it's not wasted time. If you know it's good enough, it will still be good enough once you get there. So I highly recommend that episode.
One of the best blog posts I've ever read was the Surviving Nearly There blog post from Writer Unboxed. It's the website's called. And and you can be in that like nearly there stage for so long, sometimes for years. Kyra's nodding like yes. And that was, like Megan said, that was one of the reasons that kept me going in that stage, because it feels incredibly frustrating to get all this like good feedback and to get agents being like, yes, that was great, send me more, but like not at this time. Surviving Nearly There, it's called, from Writers Unboxed.
It's written by Robin Lefevers, who wrote the Mercy series.
Yeah, it was so helpful to me. I read it dozens of times over when I was in that space.
Well, and just to Megan's point about what Julie Seidel said, like that's very much been my experience as someone who is still not published. But even just like the fact that by the time, you know, I was going on sub and I was, you know, going to send the next thing to my agents, it was really nice to be able to say, hey, I've got, like, these are my top 4 that I already have drafted. I've got a couple others that, like, if none of these are, you know, working for you, I have a couple others that I could pull out of the drawer. A few of these have been through a round or 2 of revisions. And it just, like, took so much pressure off, because, like, you do want to be working on the next thing while you're on sub, just in case your book dies in the trench and sub, which happens all the time, and also just to keep your mind off of it. But it's been really nice to kind of have, like, yes, I'm working on something, but it's not like, you know, like I feel like I have a lot of breathing room where I, you know, don't have to like really push myself to have something ready for when, you know, whatever happens with this book is done. Like, even already I'm feeling that is just like a very nice, like, okay, this was very frustrating when we shelved all these books at the time, but it's nice to have them now.
Mm-hmm. And also just like keep in mind how slow publishing moves. Like, why should you be expected to churn out content like at ridiculous speeds when publishing is just like going at the speed of a glacier, right? Like, no.
Like, this was probably also around like 2016, but was like told to my face, and I think several times, that like if you were going to be particularly a YA author, to be viable, you had to be able to crank out a book a year.
Yep.
It's like, it's not true.
No, it's not true.
It's true then, but it's definitely not true now.
No, it's not. Your book just has to be good, which is like such a catch-all thing to say, but
good with the perfect timing.
Yeah. That's true.
That's it, just that.
So just that's that all. You can do that, right? Not a problem.
Yeah, I think I used to have a lot of stress about, because publishing moves so slow, I did feel like I had to be so on it because publishing moves so slow. What if there's a window like this and I miss it? And maybe that was true when they were hardcore chasing trends, but I don't even really feel like publishing is chasing trends like it was a decade ago when we first started this channel.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think I've ever come across a time. I mean, I'm mainly working with Penguin Random House, so I mainly only know how their style is, but I've never had a time where I said to them, I'm having a hard time making the deadline, or like family stuff comes up, right? And they'll always be like, do you need another week? Do you need another 2 weeks? Like, and it's going to be different with every editor, but like I've never had them be like, you are going too slow. And sometimes I go real slow, particularly when we have like a hard set of edits or something, right? Like, because publishing moves so slowly, it feels like there's less pressure than I had expected first starting out, right? So That's not always going to be the case because they do have a schedule. But you know, like the worst case scenario is that they push your book to the next season or to the next year, which I've had happen twice now, or at least once. And it's kind of sucks, but if you need more time, you need more time, and they're not mad at you for it, you know? So if you are a naturally slow writer, that's just how you are, and it should be okay, you know?
Listen, George R.R. Martin is out there.
Yeah. He's out there doing what he does.
We're not doing it as the
Is he
case.
though?
We're not doing it.
No, he's not. He's certainly not.
Give the guy a break. He's like 105.
He wasn't when the last book came out, though.
Oh, yeah, right. That's how much he has aged in between. It's been 8 years.
With House of the Dragon coming out, I keep seeing people on Twitter just like, when Winds of Winter comes out, and I have to just resist the urge to be a total dick and just be like, Winds of Winter isn't coming out. I would love to be proven wrong. I would really love to be, but the pessimist
saw a
in me.
TikTok about they're like releasing the books with new covers, and they were like, the last time they released new covers, it was before the 5th book came out.
Well, you know, it's just been about a decade, so publishing trends have changed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really. I'm sorry, but yeah, how old is he now? For real?
He's in his 80s.
Yeah. I don't like being one of those people that jumps on that he's gonna die before he finishes.
He's
the series
75,
bandwagon.
just FYI.
Oh, okay.
Because
Okay,
I still,
he's
in
got
my
time.
head,
I've
from
got
time
a few years
when
left.
this comes up, I remember like years ago when we were making these same jokes about George R. R. Martin, and Aaron was on this side of like, you can't be too hard on people. It takes as long, which is completely reasonable. A thing to say. And like since then, every couple of years it'll like come in my head and I'll math out how many words per day he could have done in order to like finish this book. And I'm like, I don't feel bad for you at all, sir.
Yeah. How long has he been writing the same book for? Maybe my opinion has changed.
A Dance with Dragons came out in 2011.
Okay, my opinion has changed. What are
And
you
he
doing?
has published other books in the meantime.
He
Like he's
has.
written other stuff and published it. He just like has been unable to finish Winds of
At
Winter.
At this point, no. Just get someone else to do it, I guess.
Like it's worked out to something like he could have taken 2 years off and written 50 words a day and gotten to the length of a book.
Yeah.
That is his longest book yet.
He has
And still had a
basically
year to
said he's
edit it.
written himself into a plot corner that he
He
came
must have. Yeah.
Someone on the internet has solved this problem. He just needs to look on Reddit. Like it's
Yeah.
There's probably a whole fan fiction of it by now.
I feel like at this point he could retcon his own work and people would be like, yeah, okay.
yeah, do what Samantha Shannon's doing of just like do an edited version of the I didn't like what I did, so I'm just gonna redo it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I didn't know.
that?
Yeah. She said she was really young when the first Bone Season book came out.
Oh.
So she like rewrote it with the editing skills she has now.
Oh.
And like there's no like major plot changes,
Interesting.
but like it's
It is
different.
interesting.
So I actually
Oh,
repurchased because it was on Book Outlet, the first, like the new one. I'm like, because I did them audiobooks. I've listened to the first 2, I think, and then the reviews for the third audiobook were terrible. So I'm like, I don't want to. It's going to be a really long time before this series is finished anyway. So I'm going to read it next time, and now I'm going to read the like new versions. Because I think she's doing it for the subsequent books as well.
Interesting.
That's very interesting. I've
Yeah.
never heard of an author doing that before.
Yeah.
But that's cool because like I know sometimes when I read authors' earlier work and compare it to their more when they know more about writing, and I'm just like, ooh, can you retell this story but with like your skills now?
Yeah, and it makes sense for like it's still an ongoing. I think she finished copy edits on book 5 of 7, so it's still a very ongoing thing for her. They're still marketing the series, so she's like, okay, I want the book that people jump in on to be the best
be
work that
better,
I can
yeah.
offer. Yeah, it's very cool.
Makes sense.
It's obviously prolific enough that it hasn't slowed down her publishing speed. So.
Yeah. God, yeah.
I'm sure Samantha Shannon also has writing struggles.
not coming up with the length.
Unfortunately, it never gets better.
Yeah.
I'd love to have writing struggles, but be getting paid a lot for writing.
Yeah.
For being paid to struggle, yeah.
The George R. R. Martin problem of, I'm
Yeah,
struggling,
yeah.
but I'm getting paid enough money that I don't really have to deal with it. So,
Mhm. Goals.
absolutely.
We had a comment earlier from Tessa who said, I have a handful of projects that I'm jumping between. When the imposter syndrome hits on one project, I go to one of the others until the imposter syndrome goes away, rinse and repeat forever.
Mm.
Very real. Yeah. I've definitely been feeling a lot of imposter syndrome. Just all 10 years.
That also never goes away, sadly.
I don't know. I don't feel a lot of imposter syndrome.
That's nice.
I wouldn't say never, but it's pretty infrequent for me. I think most of the time I'm like, I've been doing this long enough. I know what's going on.
That's fair.
Let me in. What's the opposite of imposter syndrome?
God complex.
I very frequently am like, what if Penguin Random House figures out that I'm completely garbage and that I'm faking it this whole time? Oh.
I feel like I just go back and forth between like I'm pretty sure this is really good.
And yeah.
And yet, so it must not be. And like, that's not how publishing works. But
Yeah.
Con man syndrome. I like that.
yeah.
No, I wouldn't say I never have imposter syndrome, but at least it's gotten better for me.
I like the idea of con man syndrome being like, hopefully no one ever figures out that I'm faking it.
I literally tricked them.
Yeah. I am so sneaky.
Joe Catherine said there's a funny Tumblr post about being a con man about your writing for confidence.
I gotta look it up. It's a siren in the background, just the cops coming to take you away for being
That's me. I'm the imposter.
being a bad writer.
Con man.
Figured you out.
They were watching the stream the whole time.
They're in my walls. No.
So if anyone has any topics that they'd like us to imposter conman syndrome our way through, pretending we have the answers to your problems and talking in depth on a writing struggle topic, let us know. Megan, did you want to run us through book club a little bit?
Yes, I would love to. Thank you for asking. Where did I put the book? So we've got our first ever writing craft book club. We are reading The Emotional Craft of Fiction by Donald Mass, and we're going to be reading it just a little bit at a time. So next week we have a write-in, and then the week after that will be our first chat about The Emotional Craft of Fiction. Chapter 1 is really short. So for this one, we are reading chapters 1 and 2. And then I think after that, we'll just read one chapter at a time until the last 2. And that'll put us at finishing it like probably in one of our first chats of the new year, which would be pretty cool. So yeah, get the book if you haven't yet, or check it out from your library. And we're going to read chapters 1 and 2. It's going to be good.
Hopefully it will answer all of our writing problems.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm actually going to have a $1 zillion book deal by the time we're done with this.
Wow, nice.
That's how many problems it's going to fix. I think we all will.
I was gonna say, haven't you read this book already?
It's the second time that we'll do it, though.
Yeah.
And if we don't, Donald Moss has to give us all our money back.
That's how it works.
I like it.
I'm pretty sure that this book promised I would never have any problems again. So
and your skin is going to be smooth and flawless,
Yeah.
and your hair is going to to be shiny.
I mean, have you seen her hair lately?
Flourish.
Her
That's
hair is
true.
like
That's true. You've clearly read that a couple of times.
I have, so. But yeah, next week we'll be doing a write-in. So come and write with us, or come and be productive if you're not writing at this point in time. All are welcome. Ooh. Nicole said, to end on a happier note, Notion has been a bright spot for me this week.
What is that?
It's like a
Oh,
she says, I've been using Notion for everything. I used Evernote for it. So easy to make the page look any way my brain wants. The info sorter, which means I go back and use what I took. I have been using Notion a lot. I do really like it. There is a bit of a like, oh, but since I can make it prettier, so I won't use it until it's as pretty as it can be. I'm not that bad with it, but so I do keep like a meal plan on it that I really like. If like I have all the meals that my family eats, I have 4 weeks, and I just drop the things in different places so I can see like how long it's been since we ate a thing, or just like it takes a lot of the thinking out of that. I haven't used it for a lot of writing things, but I should.
is it an app or on a website?
yes.
Both.
Okay. Both. Yeah, okay.
And if you're logged into the one account, you can see it on the web browser or on the app. So
Nice.
I like that a lot. I also really like Plotter still, Plottr. It's like the corkboard of Scrivener, but with nothing else. And I find that really nice for organizing bookish ideas. I use it for drafting and for revising. I really like, you can have multiple threads of things. And so I really like being able to see like how balanced the POVs are and stuff. Nicole said, I made the main Notion page pretty and that's it. Nothing else. That would be my suggestion.
That's a good way to do it. And I'm using it for tracking a lot of my like yearly goal stuff of like all the albums I'm listening to. I'm tracking there with like ratings and video games I'm playing. Yeah, I use it a decent amount. I haven't used it for like notes. I've used it for like holding things I don't want to hold in my brain.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that'd be great, Nicole. So that I can add a screenshot of my Notion page for writing to the Discord if you'd like.
Absolutely.
I'd love to see it.
Show us all the pretty things.
Yes. Yeah, overall, I do feel like, writing struggles are real and they never go away. But in my experience, at least, they are always changing a little. So whatever writing struggle you're stuck in right now, that's not going to be your writing struggle forever. And that has been a huge comfort.
See, I don't know, because like once upon a time around when we started doing this channel, one of my biggest problems was having so many ideas I wanted to work on, of like knowing what and like sticking with the thing, knowing which one. Now I'll be like, well, I've got nothing I want to do, so that's fine. Double-edged sword. Careful.
But even that won't be it forever.
Mr. Kate would like to practice more accountability on the Discord. You and me both.
Yeah.
I'm working on it. I posted something recently, so I just have to say I did not remember. Yeah, that I was enjoying the book Nicole recommended.
Oh, I did see that.
Yeah, but then I didn't remember to go back to see if anybody saw it or anything, or anybody else had posted. But I'm back to using Todoist, so maybe I'll start putting that on every few days. Just look at it, Kelly. It's not that hard. Just look. Got to build the pattern. We will wrap here. Thank you all so much for sharing your struggles with us. It is really helpful knowing that no matter where you are in your career, whether you are just starting out or you're George R. R. Martin, there are struggles.
Especially if you're George R. R. Martin.
Yeah. His legacy will be his writing struggles at this point. But
Yes, yeah.
on that note, it's been fun. We will see you next week for a write-in. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.
Ah.